Track and field fans, welcome to another edition of the Friday 15. Today actually is Friday, so it's a special edition. This is normally the Supporters Club only podcast. We're opening up live to the world because we've got a very special thing going on in Eugene tonight and tomorrow. The 2022 Nike Prefontaine Classic. It's going to be amazing. I cannot wait. They had us. This meet is so good. They had a second press conference today. I decided to blow it off. I went to visit my cousin last night in Bend, Oregon. No, I didn't really blow it off. I blew off the lame official press conference that anyone could watch on the internet, because the generic questions of how do you feel being a minority female leader in your country. Now we went the track and field questions, and I did one-on-one exclusives with the biggest stars in the sport. Aaron Knighton, folks, I talked to him. Cooper Teare, maybe he's not the biggest star, but he's one of the biggest stars in Let's Run. I talked to him. Emma Coburn, I talked to her. All of that and more on today's show. Jonathan Welton, how are you guys doing?
Well, I'm curious if you didn't go to the press conference, how you actually talked to the athletes. But I sort of agree. I think the main press conferences usually are, well, I guess now they're streaming them remote. You don't need to be there. If I could ask questions via a drop-down microphone, it would be just as useful. But fill us in, Robert.
Unnamed member of the media told me today that Steve Cram had told him that in all his years as an official broadcaster, he does the World Athletics, play by play, John? That he had never learned anything of note at the official press conference. So today, what I did was they had a lot of stars going in there, but I just hung outside the door because I wanted to get one-on-ones. Have you guys watched the video interviews that I put up on YouTube?
Not yet. You didn't tell me about them, so
I
thanks
thought
for
you'd be
letting us
upfront.
know. If you guys haven't listened to them and you're listening to the podcast right now, check it out on our YouTube channel. But I will look at them after the podcast, Robert.
Let's run.com. Tried to get
So,
Jakob Ingebrigtsen. I could not get it, but I do have a confirmation. His name is officially Jakob, in case that was a
But
debate.
that's good to know because we have not always been known to have the best pronunciations on this podcast. So moving forward, Jakob all the way.
But anyways, I'm excited to be here. It's one of the greatest days of my life already, and I may see three world records later tonight. How cool is that?
Wait, why is it one of the greatest days of your life? Just going to a press conference? You got a one-on-one with Cooper Teare? Please tell me that it's more than that.
John, on the East Coast, we don't have Del Taco, and it was a long-standing tradition at Cornell. When I came to Eugene, we would always drive 40 minutes north to go to the nearest Del Taco. I went to Bend last night to visit my cousin. I had Del Taco for breakfast. I called them last night. I said, when do you start serving? They said, right when we open, we'll serve the full menu. Had Del Taco for breakfast. I just went to Trackdown Pizza for lunch. The double.
I was going to ask, I have my Tracktown Pizza shirt that I got at the Olympic trials last year. That's a Let's Run favorite hangout in Eugene. I was going to ask if you had made it there yet on the trip, so I'm very pleased to hear you were able to check
Well,
it
I
out,
had to go.
Robert.
I was afraid I can't go tonight. Can't go tomorrow. I'm leaving. I'm like, I better go now. So, Jonathan, would you like me to buy you a Tracktown Pizza mug? They have a glass mug and then like a metal mug. One's 11, one's $9. I will buy you one. Will you put it behind you there on the
I
wall?
need a shelf or something to display, but I'll be in Eugene 3 times this summer, so I can pick one up for myself if I need it, Robert, but thank you for the offer.
okay, well, we're talking about important stuff like T-shirts and mugs. John, did your 50th? How long did your 50th? I was about to say ING TCS New York City Marathon mug last. And these things were beautiful. Had some like little gold trim on it.
Oh, mug? I didn't get a mug. Do you mean a glass?
Glass.
Yes, the glass. It lasted maybe a month. Like, most of the gold trim and everything is faded. I used it a lot because it was a beautiful glass, like you said, Weldon. But yeah, it's... You look at it now, you couldn't tell that there were all these beautiful gold designs on it anymore.
I swear mine lasted one wash. I pulled it out. I'm like, wow, that didn't last very well. And the Tracktown pizza shirt, I didn't throw it out. I don't wear it. But when my daughter was vomiting with COVID this year, I pulled it out and cleaned it up with it. So
Oh my god. I like it. I'm happy to support Tracktown Pizza, and it's also Celtics green. We could be going to the NBA Finals tonight, guys. Game 6 against the Heat. So Hopefully, it's a blowout early, and that means I can actually focus on the track meet once the track starts at 10:30 Eastern.
I love Tracktown Pizza. I go there multiple times when I'm in Eugene. Um, but when I wear a green shirt, I wear my Your Move T-shirt. It's the most exclusive green shirt in running. If you want the Let's Run shirts, go to shop.letsrun.com. And if you want all of the Let's Run content, join the supporters club today. letsrun.com/subscribe. You can get this as a podcast. Like my audio levels, I apologize to anyone who listened to live last night on YouTube. I didn't have my mic plugged in. But post-production, we fixed it, dropped in your podcast feed. I'm sure you couldn't tell the difference. Okay, Robert.
By
Tell
the
us
way,
what you love.
official rule now for supporting club members the rest of the year, because I took Texas Runner Girl and Nike Man out to Trackdown Pizza, bought their meals. I may or may not have had a beer or two. So if I'm not on top of my game, that's why. But if you are a supporting club member and you run into Weldon Johnson or Robert Johnson for the rest of the year, we will buy you a beer on the spot, as long as it's less than $10. That's the rule. Just show your membership card, and you got the free beer on us. Anyways, so the scoop was pretty cool. I mean, let's talk about the big one, right? The Bowerman Mile. That historically ends the Prefontaine
Pre-classic.
Classic. It's not at the end this year because they're going to end with the men's 100 because Olympic champion Marcel Jacobs is supposed to be here. He's not going to be here. But, we've got Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He's in insane shape. John, you actually heard the main press conference, the part that I skipped. Did he sound confident? I saw him doing. The Norwegian interviewers have flown out here. It was pretty cool. They're here and they're doing interviews. They wanted to talk to Cooper Teare and Cole Harker. They wanted to talk to Jakob. What did you hear him say in the main portion of the press conference?
He didn't really say all that much. They asked him about the Bowerman Mile having this tradition of sort of inviting one younger athlete to join the field. This year it's Colin Solomon. In the past, we've had Drew Hunter, Alan Webb in 2001, most famously running 3:53, which still is the high school record for the mile. And Jakob knew about that. He was like, I like that they do this. Back in 2017, Jakob became the youngest man ever to break 4 minutes in the mile. He did it at the pre-classic. I believe he was in the international mile, but he said he had fond memories of that. He thought what Webb did in 2001 was cool. And obviously Colin Solomon has the chance to run. Well, tomorrow the weather's just going to be so terrible. I don't think anyone's going to run fast. But in terms of Jakob and his fitness, I mean, he didn't really say much. He's been training at altitude in Flagstaff the last month. He said he's been doing a little bit more speed work than before that 5K where he ran 13:02 or whatever to hit the world championship standard. But to me, I don't know. I view him as quite a big favorite because this is a stacked field. You've got the Olympic silver medalist Timothy Cheruiyot. You've got Abel Kipsang, who has been on fire this spring and is the world leader at 3:31. But those guys have been racing a lot. They've been flying all over the world. And Jakob's just been holed up at altitude. This is the only meet that's really been on his schedule. I just think he's going to be well rested and ready to go. He's already been based on the West Coast. No time change or anything to get used to. I expect him to win, and it could be big.
Yeah, and the weather too. Isn't like windy, rainy weather pretty standard in Norway? I've never been to Norway, but I would assume that's much more likely to be the case. High 60-degree temperature as compared to Kenya. So
I think high 50s, right?
someone check me. I'll get the Dark Sky app. But yeah, talking to the Norwegian media today, the same guy that we talked to at World Indoors, John. I mean, Jakob at World Indoors seems so confident, and then he got COVID and still finished second. That's pretty damn good.
He beat Abel Kipsang in that race, and Kipsang is the guy who's been on fire this spring.
With COVID. Now, the question is, though, I mean, I thought there was an interesting question. I did catch the end of the press conference because I finished my one-on-ones outside. They were like the last people, so I went in there. And they said, do you want to attack the world record this year? And I thought it was nice. He's like, look, my PR is 3:28. It's only 2.2 seconds away, but that's a lot at this level. So he's like, I just want to break 3:28 first and then 3:27. So he was like respectful of the record. But I didn't get a chance to do a one-on-one on him and sort of find out like but whatever. But 13-0, it looked like that's what the Norwegian guy was saying. Like, look, did you watch the race? He said to me, did you watch the race in California a few weeks ago? He's like, he was jogging a 13-0. I said, yes. He looked very good.
Well, the funny thing about that, Robert, is he brought that up. It was so nonchalant. It was as if he didn't even realize he didn't have the standard. He was just like, yeah, I was out training in Flagstaff, and then I realized I needed the qualifier for the World Championships. So just calls up Sound Running, says, oh, yeah, I'll get in your race and run 13-0. And, yeah, that's exactly how it looked. So I think, look, when is Jakob ever not in shape? Every race he shows up, he's usually ready to go. He's a guy who's pretty... he runs well pretty much year round.
Yeah,
he won this race by a lot last year. I think he's going to win.
I love him because it's weird. You see it with so many stars in the sport, young phenoms. John, Naomi Osaka. What's her name? Naomi Osaka, the tennis player.
Naomi Osaka.
Yes, and the gymnast.
Simone Biles.
They're not really enjoying being the best in the world. He seems to be a man. I know he's talked about retirement, but he seems to be having fun giving the interviews. At World Indoors after the prelims, he gave a 20-minute interview in Norwegian. I actually posted it up on YouTube because he just was having fun talking to the guy. I had no idea what they were talking about. So he seems to be having fun, which is just refreshing. So I do expect him to win the race tomorrow. Cathal Dennehy, friend of Let's Run, the journalist from Ireland, he had a great proposition. For some reason, despite nothing being asked of consequence in these press conferences, he said he was unable to get the mic to ask the one good question. He wanted to pick up the mic and ask the following. Hey, guys, have you seen the weather forecast? It's absolutely horrific. Let's look it up for tomorrow right now. Dark sky, my favorite app. Saturday, John, what time is the mile? 3 p.m.?
Yeah, just before 3.
Wind gust, at 2 p.m. or 24 miles an hour. 4 p.m. 29 miles an hour. The actual wind between 9 and 11 miles per hour. Precipitation perchance is between 80 and 70%. So likely raining, windy. He said, what if we just get rid of the rabbits and just race? Wouldn't that be cool? Make it a championship race. It's a little bit hard to do with a large field in the mile because right at the start you're trying to get on a turn. But it would be an interesting proposition. But they're going to have rabbits.
But Robert, don't you think that's kind of what's going to happen anyway? Maybe they just adjust the paces to make it a little slower, but if they set fast paces for these rabbits, I don't think anyone's going to follow them. We see this happen all the time in the Diamond League. If it's too hot, they'll just back off. I feel like that's what you're going to happen. And I do feel bad for these pacemakers. Getting the income is nice, so maybe you still pay the rabbits and just say, oh, we don't need you anymore. But I don't see anyone trying to run fast tomorrow.
Does Robert keep his dark sky and the wind gust reading? I'm looking tomorrow. Light rain, 12 mile an hour winds at 6 p.m. Well, that's 3 p.m. That's Eastern. But 10 mile an hour winds.
You sensationalize it well then. If you say 24 mile per hour gusts, it sounds much more severe, even if 12 miles per hour is more realistic.
But it doesn't look like good weather, and that's the thing with Eugene. The weather can be iffy. It can be hot, it can be rainy, it can be whatever. So I guess the good thing is tonight, right? We're still expecting perfect conditions essentially for the races tonight. So I guess that can happen anywhere. But for the world record attempts, you're going to have almost perfect weather tonight for running. And then in less than 24 hours, you're going to have possibly pretty bad weather for running. But Cooper Teare showed he ran 3:34 by himself in the rain in Eugene. If it's rainy and not that windy, it's not that bad for distance running. Now, sprinting's a different issue, but I think in a mile, these guys, their ability, rain and no wind, they can easily go sub 350. But the fastest mile in the last 15 years is still Alan Webb's mile, which is crazy to me because these guys should be able to drop sub 347. But the mile isn't run that often, and so we're kind of stuck with this and the Oslo Dream Mile, and that's the only two times your guys really attack it in a mile.
Fair enough. I think that I'm maybe exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating the weather. The weather's bad enough that they moved up 3 or 4 events today. So there's a couple of field events going on tonight. But the wind will be coming out of the south, it looks like. Is that what you guys are seeing? Which is the finishing stretch. So that means all the sprints will be running to headwinds tomorrow, which sucks. Have they ever run it in another direction, John, here?
I've definitely seen NCAA's 2018. It was miserable weather. They ran the. I remember them running the women's 100 on the back straight so that they could get the tailwind. So that's possible, but given this is the pre-classic and people are paying a premium to sit at the finish line, I'm guessing, and all the TV stuff's going to be set up that way. I don't think they're going to flip the
Look,
track.
even if I pay a premium to do the finish line, finish the mile there, finish the 400 hurdles there, but you should not finish the 100 meter there. If I'm a track fan, I want to see the goddamn good time. So run it in the other direction.
But, Rob, it doesn't. I mean, okay, they're going to get a wind. It's still going to be rainy and cold. It's still not good.
It doesn't matter, John. If you have a tailwind, wind helps a lot. So, by the way, before we hang up, I want to break the exclusive news. Probably shouldn't bring it, but since I had a beer or two at lunch, maybe I will. I have a big coaching and development. I know who the coach will be at the University of Tennessee, so that will be coming later in the show. But
you mean the distance coach?
Yes. Do you guys know? Is it on the message board? Has it been announced?
No.
Okay, good. So I talked to Teare and I said, "What are you, a 5K guy or a miler?" I mean, look up. It's kind of interesting. Most kids are obsessed with the mile. Prefontaine, etc. Ryan Hall, I'm a miler. And then until they realize they're not milers and they have to move up. Cooper Teare is the opposite, really. He ran 4 freaking flat in the mile in high school. And look at his NCAA career. Never ran the mile. Never ran the 1,500 NCAAs. Always 3K, 5K. Did run the DMR a couple times, etc. So, he's like, well, I'm still trying to figure that out. But in the interview, which you can find on Let'sRun.com YouTube channel, he's like, I've pretty much done all of my workouts this year with Cooper. He's like, last year we kind of differentiated a little bit. We had the same goals
with
this
Cole,
year.
You mean?
Excuse me, with Cole. He's like, this year we have the same goals, which is interesting to me. I thought, you know what? Cooper Teare's likely to double at USA's, right? Because John, the 1,500 is John before the 5K starts, correct?
Correct.
I thought, might Cole Hawker try the double? Why not? 5Ks after?
Oh,
so that's my prediction here. Cole Hawker will try the double at the USA Championships.
Why wouldn't you? He's got the World Championship standard. And remember what this guy did at NCAA's last year. I mean, he doubled back. He won the 1,500, and he doubled back later that day to run the 5K and ran a PR in that race. So he's not someone who's afraid of doing a double. That makes sense to me that both of them might try that.
So, but anyways, I asked him, I said, what's your goal for tomorrow? And this is what he said. At the end of the day, it's a competition, and I want to win. W-I-N. I'm just going to go out and race like I've always have. Go to the front a little bit, make sure I stick my nose into it, and give myself a shot, rather than being scared of the competition and maybe drifting to the back a little bit. There's no reason I shouldn't be going in it and going for the title. I bow down to you, Cooper. I bow down to you. My God, we've got a guy that's got the talent and the balls to go for it. That was amazing. He admitted later, if you listen to the full interview, it's a little bit frightening. I mean, this is his first Diamond League event. So that was the thing. Like, what are you, a 15 or 5K? But his first big occasion, it's the 1,500s where he is. And he loves rabbited races. He's never lost to Cole Hawker. He says, I've got confidence. I've done well in these rabbited races. And I'm just excited that he's going to stick himself into it.
Well, all right. I'm not going to bow down to him until I actually see what happens in the race. I mean, it's one thing to say you're going to do it, but this is his first race on the big stage in the Diamond League. We'll see. I'm not calling him a liar. I just, let's see the race first. But I'm excited. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for, right? We did see Cooper Teare and Cole Hawker. People are acting like, oh, they never race anyone. They showed up and ran at Millrose in a very strong 3K. They both were going to race at USA Indoors, except Cooper Teare got COVID, and so he couldn't run. But yeah, okay, they've had a couple high-profile time trial type things, but to act like they haven't raced anyone all year, I think is a little unfair. But this is going to be a real test, not just Ingebrigtsen, but Kipsang, Chariot, some of the other world's best. I'm very excited for this race.
John, please don't compare domestic competition to international. Like the Millrose is like B compared to these international Diamond League meets. Like, no offense, but it's domestic based runners. And also, point of order, just like we said yesterday, when you say I'm not doing something, that means you're doing it. So John just called Cooper Teare a liar. And Robert, my God, like Robert's all obsessed about breaking news. He should have like clipped that and put it on Instagram. Cooper Teare is so popular, man. Like, what's your problem? If you want to be hip with this new generation, you should have told us this news, man. I love the quote. I love it. I think it's great. You should have asked him, hey, Cooper, do you even have a rivalry with Cole Hawker? Because Cooper put up the thing earlier this week, like, you know, about him and Jakob and rivalry kind of as a joke. And then we had this philosophical discussion on Let's Run as to whether you can have a rivalry with someone you've never beaten. So that begs the question, are Cooper Teare and Cole Hawker even rivals in the mile? Because Cooper has never beaten Cole in a 1,500 mile, which is nuts. I mean, Cole has never beaten Cooper. So I'm excited about this one. I want decent weather. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. The worse the weather, right, the more it helps, I think, guys who don't have the fast PRs. Like, you can, even if you're just going to fake it and fall apart at the end, you can do it for longer if the weather's not as good.
Yeah, I think Cooper and Cole, they live in Eugene year round. I'm sure they've trained in worse weather than what they're going to get in the race on Saturday. So I would say of anyone in the field, it probably, I mean, Ingebrigtsen, yeah, Norway, I'm sure he's had some rough winters, but probably helps Hawker and Teare more than anyone. I mean, again, Teare ran 3:34 in pretty miserable conditions a few weeks ago. So I think he'll do just fine, even though he's a California kid.
Yeah.
All right, I want predictions from you guys. Hawker or Teare? Who beats who in the Bowerman Mile?
Well, if you check out the homepage of letsrun.com, it's no contest right now. Let me pull that up as I'm typing or as I'm talking. I'm going with Cooper. He's just running a little bit better right now. I'm not going to rule out the possibility. I mean, I guess they've been pretty close time-wise this year. But in the past, I'm like, oh, Cole's the better miler. He has to beat him. And I kept saying that and it wouldn't happen. So now I'm going to finally just go with logic instead of my heart or that thinking, oh, Cole's better in championship races. Well, this isn't a championship race. They're going to have rabbits. If you're thinking, oh, long term, Cole's gonna beat him, well, this isn't the type of race for him to snap the streak. It's not his ideal type of race. So, well, Robert can't give a prediction, John, because he just disappeared off the broadcast. So, what do you say?
Yeah, I kind of see it similarly. 69% of Let's Run visitors pick Cooper Teare, 31% say Cole Hawker. I'm going to follow the pattern. I'm going to say Teare until Hawker proves otherwise. Now, here's the funny thing, though. Unless Cooper totally destroys Cole in this race, I still might be inclined to pick Cole in a championship race at USA's when they race next month. So, I don't know about that, but in a Bowerman Mile style race, yeah, I'll take Cooper Teare. Robert,
So
Teare or Hawker, who you got?
Teare, definitely. I think that the weather hurts him. I mean, look he's run 350 indoors in a rabbited field. He sounds like he's in the shape of his life. I expected He said I saw the guy was 347. Didn't seem to intimidate him. I think he could run 348, but I think Jakob wins. I think he's like fourth. Is that about right?
Yeah, that would be fine. I mean, I don't think he's probably not beating Chariot or Kipsang either. And who else have we got in this field? You know, Jake Hayward, Olympic finalist, Ollie Hoare. I think Ollie Hoare is pretty damn good. I don't think he's going to beat Ollie Hoare. And Clayton Murphy, not really a miler. So I think, yeah, I could see if you finish like fifth in this race, that's a pretty solid showing, I would say. I would pick, yeah, Chariot, Ingebrigtsen, Kipsang, and Hoare probably as my top four.
I could easily see Cooper Teare beating Ollie Hoare. Ollie Hoare's a good runner. I don't know how Track and Field News ranked him number 4 in the world last year. He usually doesn't contend in these Diamond League races, in the A-type Diamond League race. So he's a very fast runner. He's not a Chariot. He's not an Ingebrigtsen level. He's not a Kipsang level. He's the next level, and that's where I'm putting Cooper Teare right now. And I would put Cole Hawker ahead of that level in a championship type race. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if Cooper beat Ollie Hoare.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, Weldon, Ollie Hoare was third in the Birmingham Diamond League last week. He lost to Kipsang and he lost to Teare. They all ran 3:35. The reason why Track and Field News ranked him so highly is because he got fourth in the Diamond League final last year. You know, he was fifth in this race last year. He has look. I agree with you. He's not on the same level as Chariot Ingebrigtsen, but he wasn't that far behind them. So I think I'm not. Yeah, him and Teare. I think that's going to be a big test. If you can beat Ollie Hoare, you can really might be able to do something in the 1500.
John, correct me if I'm wrong. What place was he at the Olympics?
Well, he had a bad race at the Olympics, but he was
Okay,
on the 11th.
you said he wasn't that far behind him. He was way far behind him.
No, I said these guys raced each other last week, and he was not very far behind Abel Kipsang.
And sort of like a more, I guess, fair enough. But it's kind of like a more tactical race in Birmingham, not with great weather, which actually is how it's probably this weekend will be worse weather. But when it came time to win that race, he wasn't winning it. So I guess it's probably going to come down to a bunch of guys there with 150 to go. You think about it, right? With poor weather.
Yeah, unless someone decides to go, throw down early. But I don't really see that.
Okay, let's stop the crap. Teare's going to beat Hawker. We all know that. Who's going to win the race? Ingebrigtsen. We all think it right over Chariot. I think Chariot's going to beat Kipsang. I think Chariot's doing pretty well. I think Kipsang's going to peak a little bit too early. But I'm excited for this. This is going to be amazing. Just all I want to see, though, is I want Cooper Teare. If he does not go up in the first 1/3 of this field, I'm going to be very, very upset. I was so pumped talking to him. I'm super pumped. By the way, I apologize to everybody. My light went out. I had to move to the other side. Very unprofessional by me. So, John, there's another U.S. 1,500-meter star, and I'm not sure which race he's running. Please help me out. His name, Hobbs Kessler. Is he in the 1,500 or is he actually in this Bowerman mile?
No, he's in the 1,500, which is earlier in the program.
So I talked to him yesterday. Kind of didn't want to talk to me. I said, Hobbs, come on, buddy. And he talked to me. And it was very interesting. This is a guy that ran 3:34 in the 1,500 in high school. This year, he's not, although he ran faster indoors than he did last year, but people there's higher expectations. It reminds me a lot of Cole Hawker. People are expecting more. The times are kind of similar. People are like, what's wrong? But his seasonal best, what did he run at that meet a few weeks ago, John? 3:38?
3:39, right?
3:39. And it was very encouraging. He said, look, I feel like my training is ahead of a little bit ahead of where it was last year. And he doesn't even have a standard for USAs because that 3:34 was before the window opened. I said, you worried about the standards for Worlds or USAs? And I just thought this was great. And I thought this is what Alan Webb did not have in his career. Alan Webb was I've got to be amazing right now. He was miserable his freshman year in Michigan because he wasn't running 3:46. Hobbs seemed to be saying the right things. He's saying, look, I feel like I'm slightly ahead of last year. And I said, what about the times? He said, I'm not worried about that. Like, if I do what I need to do, those will take care of themselves. And I ran into Ron Warhush, his coach, today. I said, hey, Ron's like, hey, Robert, do you know this guy? I'm like, yeah, I talked to Hobbs yesterday. He's like, did he say the right things? I said, yes, he said the right things. But it was good to see those guys. They seem to be in good spirits. Mason Froelich was there. Mason Froelich is very, very tall. We've lamented the fact that if it came down to Cornell or Michigan, he chose Michigan over me. But it's a good thing because I was retiring from coaching at the age of 38 a few months later.
Well, it's good to hear about Kessler. And, yeah, look, I don't think there needs to be a rush on this kid. Again, he's only 19 years old. 3:30. He actually ran 3:38.98 at Mount Sac, so slightly faster than I thought. Yeah, I expect that'll probably get into USAs, right, if they go to the descending order list. But that's where he's going to be judged. He's not going to be judged on a race in May in Mount Sac. He's not going to be judged in the B section of the Prefontaine Classic. He's got to show up in USAs, and what he does there, that's kind of going to be the referendum on his season.
All right, should we talk about...
Very briefly, just Matthew Centrowitz saying yesterday he underwent knee surgery. It wasn't totally clear. He said he had a torn meniscus, and then he sounded like he might have had a torn ACL, but he wasn't totally sure. But whatever it was, he underwent knee surgery. He won't be able to run again for at least 3 months. So clearly he's going to miss the entire season. It's just, it's kind of a bummer. Centro always shows up. He always comes to play at the U.S. Championships. He's made every team since 2011 when he was a senior at Oregon. And it's just going to be odd. He usually is good interview in the mix zone. It will be strange not having a U.S. Championships or World Championships in Eugene. He's an Oregon Duck legend. Finally, the U.S. is hosting Worlds. It's in Eugene, and he won't even get the chance to go for the team. So it's just kind of unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but I guess it's good maybe to know what's going on, because I had kind of ruled him out. I know you guys said, oh, he's opened up late and made teams before. I'm just like, I don't think so. He's getting older. Something's going on. And I can't believe I didn't know anything about this. So hopefully he gets healthy. Sounds like he doesn't want to hang him up. But now we're, only 2 years from the next Olympics? I think that would be a good way to try to make the next Olympic team.
Well, I was wondering if you guys saw his post on Instagram today. He had an Instagram story I thought it was really interesting, because he said, "This is such BS. All the training and sacrifice just flew out the window with one step that I've done millions of times. The frustration is unbearable. The anger is rage. Why the hell did this happen? Makes no damn sense. Now I'm supposed to come back from this and be the same runner or better at 32? How in the world am I supposed to do that? I have no clue. Do I have the consistent will to overcome this thing? Maybe I should break out the rocking chair and reminisce on the career that was. Maybe this is how my book ends. Maybe Father Time has defeated me. Then again, maybe not. It's midnight, my knee feels like dead weight, my head is spinning from the pain meds, but I'm wide awake. Forgive my venting, but what's the purpose of social media if I won't bring it to you real, no image? Feels good to vent, let it out, to feel as if this is the worst thing ever, because after all the venting, a real perspective sets in. There are greater issues and challenges in the world than a torn ACL. Stop feeling sorry for yourself, find the silver lining, and get to work with the same belief, same drive, and same conviction as ever. One day, the beginning of a new career journey will commence. Today is not that day." So that's a rare level of mortality you see from the greats. Centro has climbed the highest peaks in our sport. He is getting up there in age. He's battled injuries throughout his career, and he's sort of kind of saying, oh man, should I just give it up? And then he talks himself into returning. So I don't think we've seen the last of Matthew Centrowitz. He does sound like he's going to try to come back for this and still be a factor moving forward. We can't hear you, Robert. You're muted.
I love that, John, because it shows a passion. It shows.
All right, some audio problems with Robert and Eugene, apparently. But I did think it was interesting to see that level. Because Centro, he's been off of social media for the last months. No one knew this injury was going on. He can be private when he wants to. So to hear him expound on what he's been going through, I thought that was valuable. Certainly, I think fans and media appreciate some of the transparency.
Yeah, John. Was that a new post from today? That wasn't his initial post yesterday, right? The initial post.
He posted this, I think, late last night on Instagram stories. It wasn't like a regular post. And my guess is he mentioned he was on pain meds. Like, he's probably just sort of like, man, I haven't said anything about this, and now the world finally knows that I've gone under this surgery and what's going on. And I don't know if he was zonked out on pain meds and it kind of loosened him up, but he's just like, I need to vent right now. This is a way for me to work through it. I think hopefully it was beneficial for him, and, again, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I like it. That's actually way more, because I saw the post yesterday and I'm like, okay, well, at least we know he's injured, but it didn't really, I don't know, explain anything, right? But I think you see a little more truth in the story that he posted last night. And that's sort of the question I have. Like, yeah, does he have the fire to come back from this? And I think the one thing that I underestimated, I even picked this up yesterday in his injury, I sort of questioned his fire recently, but you don't make the Olympic team without having the fire, right? Like, you don't come back last year. I'm like, oh, he doesn't have it anymore. But I don't think you even go through the motions and make the team. I don't think he's that good. So I think he still had it. I think he really wanted to be at Eugene this year, and I had underestimated that, how much he wanted to be there. So I hope somehow. I mean, the time away, right? He's either gonna just be like, yeah, I enjoy being on the rocking chair, or he's gonna be like, damn it, I missed this. I want one more chance, and he could come back with a vengeance. But at 30, what is it, 2? Can he come back in a vengeance the 1500, or is it going to have to be the 5K? And is he a 5K runner? I always thought he'd be a 5K runner. So
it's going to be tough. Like, Centro at his peak, he was one of the very best in the world. He was the best in the world in 2016. But, yeah, he's going to be 33 next season. It's just hard to get to that level, especially with how fast the top guys are running right now in the 1500. But I don't know. I certainly think he could make another U.S. team. Being a factor on the world stage, that's harder. He didn't even make the Olympic final last year. But anyway, that's Centro. Looking at some of these other races on the schedule, I mean, they're all pretty much loaded in the pre-classic on Saturday, all these races. I really like this women's 800, women's 1500. That's the best distance race for me on the women's side at pre-classic. You've got Gabrielle Debussy-Stafford, Sinclair Johnson, Faith Kipyegon, Corey McGee, Laura Muir, Josette Norris, Ellie Perrier St. Pierre, Shannon Osika. So you've got pretty much all the top Americans minus U.S. indoor champ Heather McLean and then Jenny Simpson. We don't know what's going on with her. And then internationally, I didn't mention Gudov Sagai, the dominant world indoor champion. You've got Faith Kipyegon, who's the best ever, and you've got Laura Muir, the Olympic silver medalist. So that, to me, is a stacked race, and I'm very interested to see, can any of these Americans, particularly Ellie Perrier St. Pierre, who just coming off a medal at World Indoors, can they get close to, or even somewhat close to the top women in Kipyegon, Sagai, and Laura Muir?
I mean, I think, Perrier is the only one, right, who you'd expect to do that. Who else are you thinking, John?
Well, I mean, Josette Norris was third in the Diamond League final last year. Now, granted, not all of these women were in that race, but, she's run 3:59.
Yeah, but to be up there at that level, John, I'm sorry, 3:59 doesn't cut it. You got to be 3:56 shape, probably.
I disagree with Weldon on that. I mean, Laura Muir ran 4:02 last week, so I think that. Look, I think with the weather, she's a New Hampshire. Not Heather McLean. Help me out, John. Ellie Perrier is a New Hampshire girl.
Vermont,
whatever. She trains in the Northeast. I think the weather helps her. I expect her to. I would like to see her make a big step. That would be fun. But I expect Faith Kipyegon. I was stunned that the winning time last week was only 4:02. So I think this will be over 4 minutes. The time's not going to impress us. Which, it's weird. I'm obsessed with time. And I think Cathal Dennehy's idea of, let's just get rid of all the rabbits and just let them race. I think it'd be more interesting instead of, being upset that no one goes with the rabbit and we're going to see this thing where there's a pacing light way ahead, there's the rabbits way ahead, and race after race. It's going to make for terror for television. Let's just get rid of it and see who wins. Because no matter what happens, I think it's going to be a little bit of a downer. Okay, she gets second or third. I mean, if she wins, obviously, if any American wins, it's amazing. But no one's going to beat. Has Faith run this year, John?
Yeah, she got beat in the 3K in Doha by Francine Niensaba, but she still ran well in that race.
But she ran pretty well, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
no,
but by the way, talking about 1,500 meter stars, you guys know that Robbie Andrews is in this meet?
I did, but Robbie Andrews hasn't been relevant for about 4 years, so I didn't think it was worth bringing his name up.
Do you know what he's doing in this meet?
He's running
his wife?
1,500.
He's rabbiting the 1,500. So he's now the rabbit in the B mile. Anyways,
speaking of people who may not be relevant anymore, is Craig Engels racing the B mile?
He's in the 1,500. How dare you say that? Because I want to show you guys. I violated journalistic protocol today, and I don't think I've ever done this in my entire career. Look what I have right there, folks. Those of you watching the live show,
wow,
that is a selfie. John's ashamed. It's a selfie of me and Craig Engels. Craig's got the hook 'em horn sign up. I'm not sure why. Maybe he wishes he went to the University of Texas. But
Robert, he's not in the start list. Are you sure? Did you confirm he's running? He's not in the start list for any meet of the races.
He's in the 1,500.
No, he's not. Not go on the start list on the website. He's not there.
Has he been bumped up to the pre-mile? Maybe a couple of mix now. He was in
No,
the 1500.
he's not listed on either race.
Well, he's here. I saw him at one point in the 1500 like a week ago.
I think he was in the 1500, but he hasn't been
Well,
racing very well this year,
he
which
was in
is
good moods. He was here. Was he just here picking up the free Nike shoes? I'm friends with Craig's high school coach, Chris Catton. By the way, if you want a high school coach to coach you, you don't want me to do it, go to Chris Catton. He's got an amazing Instagram account. He coaches all. He and coaches tons of the. If the top high schoolers aren't coached by 10 men, they're all coached by Chris Catton. That's the way it works. So I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. All right, let's talk about the other things that I learned today.
Okay, sounds like we.
What do you think? And she said, look, my training's been really good. I think she said 20 weeks. You can look it up on YouTube. Better than ever. So she sounded confident. I said the 409. What about that? And she was well aware of the stat that we put in the week that was a few weeks ago. Like, when did she win the world title, John? 2017?
yes. This is Emma Coburn, by the way, that we're talking about. Your mic cut out there for a second, Robert.
Yeah, we're talking about Emma Coburn. In 2017, she ran the New York meet. I don't know if that was still the Diamond League. She was like last place. She ran like 4.9 or 4.10. And then a few weeks later, she was the world champion. She was very well aware of that. She says she tells other teammates about that. One bad race does not define you. She's like, I made a few mistakes. I went out too far. My training's been really good. My strength has been really good. She's like, normally that's my weakness. So maybe she's just not quite sharp enough for her 1500. It sounds like she's very excited for her fitness and what she can do. And I was like, well, what's the goal for the year? And it was clear, like, she's like, what? Like, the only goal seems to be worlds. I said, well, don't you want to get like, potentially sub 9, the American record back? And she said, well, basically, why worry about that now? It's all in on the worlds. She's not holding anything back for after worlds. Everything is focused on that world title, wants to get another medal there. So that was pretty interesting there. And then, folks, I haven't launched my sprint site. Look for it to be coming soon, 958.com. I talked to Arian Knighton, the guy that John's obsessed with. Could he make history tomorrow, the first U.S. high school athlete to go sub 10 in the 100 meters? And that's what he's focused on. He wants the sub 10 clocking. Obviously, he says he'd like to win. And I said, hey, man, us at Let's Run, we said if you win that race, it's game over for anybody, even Usain Bolt. He kind of laughed, but he confirmed to me that he will not be running the 100 meters at the USA Championships, just the 200. He's still focused on the 2, but he really wants that sub 10. And should we count it as a high school sub 10, John? Because he confirmed to me today that high school graduation was on Tuesday. He has graduated from high school.
I count it as a high school sub 10. I mean, Noah Lyles ran the high school, quote unquote, high school record at the 2016 Olympic trials. He was almost 19 years old. He'd been out of high school for like a month at that point, and everyone still views that as the high school 200 meter record until Knighton broke it. So, yes, I would view it as the high school record. I don't know if he'll be able to do it in Eugene, though. Look at the forecast. It's pretty terrible. But next weekend in New York, he is running... Sorry, not next weekend. June 12th in New York, he's scheduled to run the NYC Grand Prix there on Randall's Island. I think that's really the shot for him to get sub 10, assuming the weather's good for that race. But it is interesting. I mean, this 100's loaded. This is going to be really good. Basically, the winner of this is going to be regarded as the U.S. favorite and the biggest challenger to Marcel Jacobs, because you've got Trayvon Bromell, you've got Christian Coleman, Fred Curley, Noah Lyles, Knighton's in there, Andre DeGrasse, the Olympic 200-meter champion. And then you do have another teen phenom in here. It's possible Knighton's not the first teenager, because you have Letziel Tabogo of Botswana, who on the same day Knighton ran his 19.49 world under 20 record in the 200, Tabogo became the youngest person ever to break 10 seconds in the 100. He ran 9.96, which is a world under 20 record. So those two squaring off is going to be nice. I'm very pumped for this race. I'm kind of curious, do you have a favorite in this race? Who's going to win the men's 100? Robert, we can't hear you. You got to unmute your mic.
So I'm in the lobby of the Graduate Hotel, so I'm trying to mute myself when I'm not talking. what has Bromell done this year, John? That was what you always say. Go with if you're on the SAT, take an A, B, C, or D. Just go with your gut instinct. I thought Bromell. I don't feel like Coleman's the same.
Well, Coleman, we don't really
But
know. I mean, he ran fine in indoors. He was not his best self at Belgrade, but it took a very good race from Marcel Jacobs to beat him. He kind of opened up on the slow side. I think it was about 10:08 in Tokyo, but he won. He wasn't really pushed. This is going to be a big test for Coleman. Bromell, I thought, Robert, when I was taking standardized tests, I was told when in doubt, guess C, because C is the most common answer. But I would go Bromell as well. He has the single best performance, in terms of like what's the most impressive 100-meter race of the season. I would say it's probably Bromell's windy 9.75 in Jacksonville on April 30th. It was a plus 2.1 wind. And then last week he was supposed to run Birmingham, dropped out. Oh, sorry, no, it didn't drop out. He was DQ'd for the full start that we already covered in the podcast last week. He looked pretty good when he ran 9.92 in Puerto Rico a couple weeks ago. So I would call Bromell your favorite. But, Curley's been running well. Noah Lyles has been running well in the 200. And Coleman is kind of a question mark. But yeah, I'd say it's Bromell.
I agree with you, John, but Let's Run Nation totally disagrees. I put up this poll at the start of the podcast, so I mean, maybe there's just a couple hundred votes, or even less than that. It's been up like 20 minutes. But 40% of you are picking Christian Coleman, only 24% Bromell. I mean, wow. Aaron Knighton's getting more votes than Noah Lyles and Fred Curley.
What?
But
Aaron Knighton's getting more votes than the Olympic silver medalist Fred Curley? That is some serious disrespect.
No, John, it's called being a fanboy. So
We've
all said, like, if he does win this thing, he's the future of sprinting. So I think a few people are just like, screw it, man. I want him to win. I don't want these other guys to win.
I guess
sometimes people vote with their hearts.
I just gave more credit. I thought our readers are the cognoscenti of the sport. They're intelligent. They know what they're doing. I think maybe I gave our readers too much credit.
They're also the fans of the sport, John. So.
All right, yeah. I'm not going to discourage passion, but I try to bring both passion and logic to the podcast here.
All right, John, let's talk about the women's 100 and get out of here. We've lost Rojo again. I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about besides women's 100?
I guess I'm a little interested in the women's 800 because people are saying, Keely Hodgkinson looks fantastic. She ran 158 negative split to win in Birmingham last weekend. There's Noah Thing Mo. We still have zero explanation on why she's not in this meet. She's one of the biggest stars. Her name was just removed from the start list. Robert tried asking the meet organizers. They said, ask her agent. We've tried asking her agent multiple times. Even slid into her DMs on Instagram today to try to say, hey, could you give us an explanation? We've heard nothing. But Thing Mo's not in that race. Keely Hodgkinson is, but the rest of the field's very good. You've got the world leader, Allie Wilson, the world indoor champ, RJ Wilson, Raven Rogers, Olympic bronze medalist, who's also run 158 looking good earlier this year, Halima Nakai, the reigning world champ, Natoya Gould, Gemma Riki, who was fourth at the Olympics. This is a stacked field. And the assumption, Hodgkinson is favored. She's run 155. She is the Olympic silver medalist. But, do you think it's just simple as she's the best woman in the field and she wins? These Americans have been running really well this year. So do you think any of them has a chance to pull the upset?
Well, what was the line? There was some line from the Birmingham meet, John. Like, it was from... something like class wins out essentially over form. But I don't. Keely's your huge favorite. Then I'm going to go in order. I'm going to go Raven Rogers. And then after that, it's like, yeah, AJ Wilson or something like that, can Allie Wilson, if they step up and challenge her, it's a huge thing going forward. But there's a big jump off in class from Raven to down, I feel like. You got Keely, Raven, and then drop in form.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see because I do expect Hodgkinson to win, but the Americans are all running, most of them are running pretty well this year, so I'm excited for that. Yeah, and then women's 100, what excites you? I guess we got Sha'Carri Richardson and we've got Elaine Thompson-Herah in here, but first of all, do we think Elaine Thompson-Herah is going to win? Sorry,
Of
going
course.
to run. No, not win, run. Because remember, last week she claimed she had some setback in training or something, blah, blah, blah. Didn't end up running the Birmingham Diamond League, stayed home and ran in Jamaica instead and looked very good. Ran 10-9 into a headwind. The conditions look, and people were like, well, she probably saw the conditions in Birmingham and was like, I don't want to do that. Do we know that she's in Eugene? Here's where it would be helpful if Robert saw her in the meat hotel or something like that. Because, if it's pouring rain and it's cold and the poor conditions, is she going to want to show up and run this race? Or is she like, well, it might be this way in July in Eugene. I should at least try to get through it because who knows what the conditions going to be like at the World Championships.
I mean, at this point, 24 hours before the race, she's on the start list. She better be running. Otherwise, our sport's a complete joke, even more so than we thought. To me, it's going to be good. I want to see them both just racing. There'll be drama. This will be the race people talking about afterwards. In addition, if nothing even happens in the meet. So this is guaranteed drama. I want it to happen. But speaking of rain, speaking of storms, John, there's one ripping through here, and I got to go take care of some backyard furniture. So any final parting thoughts?
No, I'm pumped for this meet. I mean, we didn't even talk about the 5,000 tomorrow, which is loaded. Cheptegei's not in it, but you got Salman Barega. I mean, and all the other guys in there, Mohamed, Paul Chalimo. It's going to be terrific. I'm really excited to watch this. And, I think that's basically my final thoughts. Tonight, remember tonight, we've got, if you're listening to this live, 10:30 p.m., U.S. Championships 10K, women then men. And then we've got a bunch of world record attempts following that. So make sure you check back on the website. We'll have all our analysis and our recap of everything that goes down. We'll stay up so that you guys don't have to. But Weldon, get that furniture dry and enjoy the meet this weekend.
Yeah, should be great. Someone pointed out in the show notes she was at the press conference, so she is running.
Well, she
All
was
right.
at the press conference. Doesn't guarantee she is running, but she is in Eugene, which is more than we can say last week for Birmingham.
All right, fair enough. Till tomorrow.